Hello, this is Mario Farina. Today I'll be telling you a story called Time After Time. It's a story about time travel, and this is the picture at the front of the story. It's available in Smashwords, www.smashwords.com. It's free for the downloading and for the reading, and there are many other stories there that are also free for the reading and the downloading. Time after time. Ladies and gentlemen of the press and television, Dr. Walgrave began, man has long desired to go back in time or to the future. Within a few minutes we will attempt to send James Thornton, son of our esteemed senator from North Dakota, back to the 17th of April, 1945. There he will do nothing but observe for 5 minutes, then return. Based upon what Jim tells us at his return, the scientific community will determine what further experiments could and should be conducted. Dr. Walgrave, a bespectacled man of medium height, about 40, gazed at the members of his audience who were beginning to babble with excitement. A dozen voices began shouting a jumble of questions. This hectic scene was taking place less than 5 minutes after the meeting in the green room had begun. At first, there had been a hush, awaiting an opening statement from Ron Boswell. We brought you here because of the momentous significance of the occasion, the President's press secretary announced. He brushed aside his shock of jet black hair. The President of the United States has a statement to make, after which he will allow a few questions. Ron nodded toward President Richard Allison, who stepped to the microphone, adjusted his massive bulk, then spoke. Dr. William Walgrave of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology here at my side will speak to you about an experiment that has never before been performed. Preparations for it have been confidential until now. The President of the United States stepped aside and Dr. Walgrave took his place. After Dr. Walgrave had made his statement, Ron needed to shout, "One at a time, one at a time. Mr. Brown, you have a question." Michael Brown of NBC, happy for the opportunity, called out not one, but a series of questions. Is this on the level? Is time travel a reality? How long has this been going on? When will... Wait, Ron interrupted. One question at a time. Dr. Walgrave, would you give us some background information? Walgrave stepped back to the mic. As you all know, it was discovered last year that light gathered by a large reflex telescope could be accelerated to a velocity far greater than the speed of light, which up to now has been thought to be impossible. It was demonstrated that incidents that had taken place on Earth years ago could be viewed from a spacecraft. Science has taken the next logical step. A force field has been developed that can allow actual landings at times in the past. We have arranged for you to participate as witnesses in an experiment that is closed to the public. The media is being asked to witness the experiment, then report the results to the American people. Ron motioned to Linda Stewart, an attractive brunette White House correspondent from CBS. This question is directed to Dr. Walgrave. Why was James Thornton selected to go? Shouldn't an astronaut have been selected? This journey does not demand much exertion, the doctor responded. All that is required of Jim is that he stand on a street corner for 5 minutes. A time mechanism in this room will bring him back at the end of that time. The whole thing will require no more energy than drinking a cup of coffee. And oh yes, he was nominated by his father, the respected legislator from North Dakota, Senator Samuel Thornton. The senator's son is professor of political science at Harvard, a logical choice for the assignment. James Thornton, about 25, in a gray business suit reminiscent of the 40s, with a matching light-colored fedora and a ripe-striped tie, shifted from foot to foot. He glanced around the room, seemingly evaluating the reaction of the attendees. He smiled at his father. The distinguished gray-haired man radiated with pride. Madam Chandler from ABC called out a question. Doctor, is it not dangerous to fool with the past? Couldn't Mr. Thornton's presence in the past, with all the knowledge he has about what is going to happen, affect the future? That is, the now? Miss Chandler was considered the matriarch of news reporters. She was scheduled to retire later in the year. Dr. Walgrave glanced in the direction of the white-haired woman. We don't think the future will be affected, he replied. Jim Thornton will be in 1945 only a few minutes. If we thought there would be any danger to history being affected, we wouldn't have agreed to send him. Madam Chandler shook her head strongly, displaying extremely deviousness. There were questions from others in the assemblage, including Thomas Finley of CNN, Dorothy Sanders of the Washington Post, Gordon Maxwell of the Wall Street Journal, and others. When all questions had been answered and the commotion had died down, everyone was requested to look in the direction of an archway that had been erected a few feet away. In a couple of minutes, James Thornton was to walk through that archway, fade from view as he journeyed to 1945, and reappear exactly 5 minutes later. Walgrave nodded toward Jim Thornton, who walked through the archway. Pausing a few feet from his opening, he glanced at his father, then at the president, finally at the others in the room. His father nodded reassuringly. Jim turned his eyes toward the opening and quickly walked through it. The scene dissolved gradually as Jim was seen to pause at the other end, then was gone. 5 minutes passed slowly. When this amount of time had been exceeded, many in the green room showed anxiety. After 6 minutes had elapsed and Jim had not returned, there was apprehension that something had gone wrong. All that represented reality in the room began to fade slowly, then disappeared completely. It was gradually replaced by the emergence of the same room, except with different people in attendance. We have brought you to the green room because of the momentous significance of the occasion, Greg Narcraft, the press secretary, announced. He brushed aside his shock of light brown hair. Our beloved leader, Superior James Thornton, President of the United States and Prime Minister of the United Federation, has a statement to make. There will be no questions. Greg nodded toward President Thornton, who appeared to the microphone. The President and Prime Minister, frail in his mid-90s, spoke weary words, barely clearing his throat. Dr. Andrew Phillips has a statement to make, he mumbled. Dr. Phillips stepped to the mic, bowed to the President, then spoke to the audience, consisting of Greg Narcraft, Daniel Stone of Amalgamated Television, and Gerald Ward of Consolidated Press. Our magnificent leader, Superior James Thornton, he began, has decided to personally participate in an experiment involving travel to the past. He was elected in 1948, defeating the infamous President Truman. He has become more and more revered by people of the United States and indeed by citizens of all nations of the world. With majestic bravery, he has held his staunch finger on the trigger of atomic weaponry, directing its use exclusively to constructive and peaceful activities. Now he will embark upon a triumphant experiment to determine whether a return to April 17, 1945 is possible. While others have suggested that a younger man should attempt this trial, he has insisted that he alone undertake it. In a few minutes, the leader superior will be reverently assisted to the archway that has been erected in this room. He will step through its opening. A tiny mechanism will allow him to remain in 1945 for a duration of only 5 minutes. After that, he will triumphantly return, reporting what he has learned. Dr. Phillips turned to Greg Northcraft, who glanced at the aged James Thornton. The leader superior nodded. "Let the experiment begin," he wheezed. That's the end of the story. I hope you liked it. Thank you for looking. Thank you for listening. Tomorrow I'll have another story for you. Bye-bye.